A gentleman came in to the office. He purchased a bunch of tickets, and before putting them into the barrel or the container, he kissed all of them. Yeah.
Wow.
He bought like, let's say, 20 tickets.
Uh-huh.
Before he puts each one in there, he kisses them. He does like a little prayer thing. He puts them in there one by one. And I was just standing there watching.
That makes me want to make him
serious. Yeah, they take it serious.
Yeah, well, you know, Christmas time, there are a lot of different expenses you have and things that we feel we need. And one of the things we've always worked with, and we have a great sales and marketing team here, they work to try to get people to partner with us to help people to get all their Christmas arrangements done. I mean, people look forward to the paint. People look forward to the turkey and the ham. They look forward, I mean, there's a mattress in there. There are giveaways, shopping sprees, just in case you don't win.
There's a whole lot of
need.
sorrel stout too. So
oh, yeah.
Can't go wrong with that.
Cut down on the alcohol list that you need to purchase for, especially for Boxing Day. So, yeah, Gimme 5 starts tonight. Here's the thing. I know what happens every year. I'm trying to help you here. Get your tickets in today. Don't forget. Just come to Channel 5. They're 25 cents each. Fill them out. Drop them in the container. And you may win some great prizes tonight. All right? But we got to jump into our weather update for today. And we have Michael Gentle on the line. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
How are you today?
I'm doing good.
All right. So it's a nice, cool morning here in Belize City. What does that mean for our weather today?
We're expecting generally fair conditions will continue at least the next couple of days.
Okay. And that 24-hour forecast?
Mostly sunny today, little or no rainfall expected, and partly cloudy tonight with the chance of only isolated showers.
All right. And what about our winds?
Okay, winds will be from the north and northeast at 5 to 15 knots, and this will produce slight to light chop sea conditions.
Okay. And the high temperatures for today?
Okay, we're expecting 84 along the coast, 88 inland, and 78 in the hills. And for tonight, 74 along coastal areas, 68 inland, and 64 in the high elevations.
Okay. And the extended forecast?
The extended forecast, we expect conditions to continue generally fair. Some cloudy spells tomorrow and tomorrow night, with only isolated showers, or some periods of light rain, mostly along the coast and over the south.
All right. So we have some good days ahead.
Yeah, we expect it to continue generally fair and cool at night.
Okay. And Mr. Gentle, I can let you off the hook now. We don't need to ask about the tropical weather update anymore.
No, we have reached the end of the tropical season, the hurricane season.
Yeah. And we have been blessed once again.
Yeah, we didn't get any serious threat this year.
All right. Well, thank you for your updates throughout the course of the hurricane season. We did appreciate it. And I know that you guys put a lot of extra time in to ensure that we're always up to date. Thank you to you and your team.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right. Have a great day.
Yeah, same to you.
All right. Bye. Yes, that's another reason to celebrate this morning. The hurricane season is officially over. And while every now and again you may get an out-of-season storm, so far things seem good.
Well, I'm just glad that it's over and done with for this year.
Yeah.
And it went by without incident, which I'm most grateful for.
Yeah.
And I'm certain that most, if not all, Belizeans are breathing a collective sigh of relief.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is always a good thing.
Yeah, and you can now dig into your hurricane supplies. So that's a little less groceries to buy this month. Yeah. That's always a good thing as well. All right, and keeping on that positive note, we're going to shift into some motivation for this Monday morning. And that means it's time for our eye opener. And our eye opener is taken from dailyom.com, and it goes like this. It is in the act of giving that we find joy, without the expectation of anything in return. Since giving and receiving are so intimately intertwined in our lives, we often expect that we can attract abundance by simply conducting ourselves in an open-handed fashion. Yet, We find ourselves wallowing in disappointment when our ample generosity is not met with the expected results. The answer to this quandary lies in the expectations that, in part, initially prompted us to give. Though our intention is likely pure, we can unintentionally mar the beautiful experience of giving by focusing on what we will eventually receive in return. When we let go of the notion that we deserve to receive gifts based on giving gifts, bounty can once again flow freely in and out of our lives. This can help you stop weighing the gifts you give against those you have received. Giving eventually becomes a profound joy that stands alone, separate from any and all conditions, and you will learn to appreciate the flow of reciprocal abundance as a gift in and of itself.
This is so fitting for the time of year. With the Christmas season pretty much in full swing, the idea for most people is to be able to give.
Yeah.
And there's the expression, freely give, freely get, right? Freely receive. My thing, however, is a slightly different take on the eye-opener this morning. In the act of giving, there's a sense of satisfaction knowing that you've either made someone's day,
Yeah.
or you've come through when someone needs that assistance the most.
Yeah.
But what I'm finding is, and I'm drawing from personal experiences here, what I'm finding is that more and more we're not as appreciative. We don't express our gratitude for the kind of assistance or gifts or what have you. It's almost as if though there's now this culture of entitlement. Well, there's expectation, yes, but there's that culture of entitlement that we're fostering where people believe that it is owed to them.
Yeah.
So that when I look at this Christmas spirit, I'm saying to myself, I will give gifts that is expected of me. I will also receive gifts because I expect it from the persons that are closest to me. However, I don't expect anything in return other than a thank you, a sincere appreciation of what I'm doing or what I have done for those that I'm giving gifts to. And I think that is more heartwarming to me than receiving something that I want or receiving something by surprise. Just the thank you goes a long way. And that's me being sincere to the idea of giving and receiving.
And, you know, this is actually my favorite part of gift giving. And I think I love putting thought into a gift so that I can see the reaction. So that person knows that, one, I've been paying attention. You know, I realize that you like, especially the kids, you like this, you like that. Or even the adults in my life, like I have been paying attention to what it is that you like and what you would appreciate. I love the reaction that I get, and that's as much as I need. And I think in the gift giving process, that's something we must always remember, and that we have to nurture in the children as well. But I think it goes beyond that. Christmas is always called the time of giving. And the thing is that I realize that every year we find more and more people kind of just broadcasting, oh, I gave this today, I gave that today. And, you know, some of them may be doing it from their heart, but I have to be honest, some of them really, it does feel a bit just for show.
Yeah.
And so you have to start to take a look at your motives as to why you are giving when you give to anyone. And most importantly, it's not just about expecting back gifts in return or even the thank you. You don't need to get accolades to say, great job, you helped someone for Christmas. Just do it because it feels good. Because giving on its own with no motives feels good.
Yeah,
and once we learn to accept that that's what we're going to get, then you know you're gonna have a great experience.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. There's a sense of satisfaction or fulfillment that comes with being able to give or being able to help, right? And like I said, I'm just reiterating it. A simple thank you goes a long way.
Yeah.
The thank you part is what makes you feel, you know what, I've done something good. I've done something that the other person appreciates.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the greatest reciprocity right there.
Absolutely. Right, so that's our Monday motivation for today. A good reminder as we head into what is typically the season of giving.
Yep.
All right, so we got to shift gears now. It is Monday morning, and it's time for us to catch up a bit on some of the news that took place over the weekend and some of the big stories we're looking forward to in the week ahead. So we'll shift gears to our Eye on the News.
All right, Marlene. Couple things going forward before we look back at what has transpired over the weekend. There's a special sitting of the House of Representatives coming up this week. I believe it's on Wednesday. And there's also a special sitting of the Senate to succeed that on Friday. It is expected that at the House meeting on Wednesday, the Christmas chair will be announced. And the irony in looking at this annual gift giving is set against the backdrop of the lawsuit that was recently brought against the government of Belize, more so the Minister of Finance, the Financial Secretary, and the Attorney General, in respect of how public monies are being spent, and then the appropriation afterwards in terms of going to the House of Representatives and getting those monies approved.
Yeah.
The Christmas chair falls into that because annually there is a set amount of money that is put aside for constituencies, both red and blue, right? And in the lawsuit, in the whole litigation process a week and a half or so ago, in speaking with the Financial Secretary, off record actually, he was saying, well, the lawsuit is being brought by the opposition, and they too are recipients of the Christmas chair money in this instance, right? So I'm just putting that out there that it's kind of ironic when you look at it from that point of view.
Yeah, but I don't think that diminishes
No, not at all.
the weight of what's happening there. You know, we're probably going to get in trouble or I will, but I think the issue with the Christmas cheer is one where it feels like such a farce. You know, fundamentally, you're just giving me my money back. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You're not taking out of your pocket. You're not cutting down your Christmas vacation that you're spending on. You're not taking out of your wallet. You're not taking out of your fuel expenses, your home decorations. You, as my area representative, you are not doing that. You're taking my money and you're giving it back to me and saying, look at what I've done.
Well, you know that there's a selective process there too.
And then that was the second part. So the first part is, I think sometimes we really miss, not we, but in general, we have become, we take so lightly what public funds means. Every time you get your salary, that portion that is taken out automatically is what goes into your public funds. And anytime it's used, you've worked for it. It's those extra hours that you put in, the time away from your children. So how it's spent should always be critical to us.
Yeah.
So to take my money and give it back to me and say, and not that I have ever received a Christmas cheer, it's not really a heartwarming gesture. Yes, it's helpful to those who need it. And it's understandable that a society needs to take care of people who are in great need, and that's what we believe in. But is it going to those who are in greatest need? We know one of the greatest criticisms about the Christmas cheer is that it's clearly given with political motives involved. We have where the ruling government, their party gets a larger sum than the opposition sum, no matter if that is an area that is represented by the opposition, they get less money. What are they called? Standard bearers? The caretakers for the areas where the opposition is in power do get money as well. These are non-elected officials. What's the accountability as to who gets it? What's the process for someone to apply? Can you get it because you're a great red representative? No, well, can someone, I know, can someone get it because, you know, they're great to the party? Or is it because you really need it? And so, you know, it's just one of those things. We call it Christmas cheer, but it's been controversial. It continues to be controversial. I'm not the only one to speak out about it. We've heard it all the time, but you know, it's not as altruistic as it often sounds.
Well, it's a gesture. And the fact that it is a gesture.
Giving me my own money.
You've outlined what the process is insofar as the taxes and the money is being used for the purpose of the chair. But I'm saying, while yes, it is a gesture, the idea of accountability shines through it all in light of the fact that there is this lawsuit in terms of how government goes about spending public monies, right? So when you break it down by constituency, and you have red and blue as we've mentioned earlier, there's a sum of money that is allotted for each constituency, and perhaps there's a breakdown insofar as who gets what and how much do they get, or however that works out. When you look at the idea of a transparent process and you look at the idea of an accountable process, then there should be a breakdown for every single cent of that money.
Absolutely.
And so that to me is what I'm looking at. And
eligibility. Because not everyone needs the boost. You don't just get extra funds for Christmas because you're a good party member. You shouldn't. Or your family is, or you work with the government. You know, it's unfair, and there are people out there who really do need. So, you know, like, I'm sure this will be a part of the conversation in the week to come. You brought it up on a Monday morning.
Well, I'm just saying that
we just finished an eye-opener about not expecting things in return. And when these types of gifts fall within such political lines, we know what the motive is here. It's the handout culture that we have fostered, that has been fostered over pretty much, it feels like all the years we've been independent. So, I mean, that's kind of where my mind is right now. You mentioned Christmas cheer, and I'm just thinking, you know, we gotta get this right. One, we have to figure out who really needs. Definitely not along political lines. Hopefully, there has to be eligibility criteria, and there has to be accountability. If you're going to help people who can't even afford a chicken for Christmas, there's no knocking that. You can take my money and give it to them. I have no problem with that. But if I don't know who is going to, and if all I've seen so far and heard of anecdotally is just it's political favors, then so not so cheery after all.
But so that's one of the announcements expected to be made on Wednesday, right? So as I'm saying, it's the first House meeting post the hearing that was held a week and a half or so ago. So it'll be interesting to see what dynamics, if any, plays out on Wednesday, both at the House and on Friday at the Senate level. So that's the House meeting. Over the weekend now, there were two murders. One happened down south in Hopkins Village, where an American national, a woman, was found inside of a drum at her residence. And so a news team is headed to Hopkins this morning to get an understanding or an appreciation of what actually took place there. The police have categorized it as a case of homicide. And so just to read quickly from what they have in their situation report, it says here, about 2:05 p.m. on Saturday, November 30th, a concerned Belizean reported to the police that a friend, Wendy Jane Dardano, 50 years old, American national of Hopkins Village, wasn't answering her phone. As a result, around 2:20 p.m. that same day, police visited the residence of Wendy Jane Dardano. Upon arrival at the residence, Dardano's common-law husband was present. Police conducted searches in and around the residence, and they discovered the body of Dardano inside a blue plastic drum that was being used to dispose of garbage. Police have one person detained while they are investigating. So this is an unfortunate incident. As the report says, a friend grew concerned when Mr. Adano was not answering her phone, decided to contact the police, and the discovery was made. And it is suspected that foul play is involved, and so there's a detention and the investigation is ongoing. So there was another incident of murder over the weekend as well, and this was on Friday. This was in the evening around 6:30 p.m. when police received information and visited an area known as Farmer's Site. Upon arrival, they observed 26-year-old Richard Smith with an apparent gunshot wound to the body. He was transported to the KHMH where he was pronounced dead on arrival. Police initial investigation revealed that Richard Smith and other male persons were socializing. However, he left to go home through a short road at mile 17 on the George Price Highway. And shortly thereafter, shots were fired, and he was later found along Farmer's Site Road. So police are investigating this incident. Right? So those are two of the major incidents that occurred over the weekend. And just quickly in looking back, and I would more want to offer this as a caution to motorists.
Oh, yeah.
Last week was a very, very bad week to be on the highways. The number of road traffic fatalities we reported on last week, within a 40-hour span, there were 10 persons who lost their lives to road traffic accidents. And it is incumbent upon anyone who sits behind a steering wheel to ensure that he or she take proper precautions to safeguard their lives and the lives of others, be it pedestrians or motorists as well. I think the moment you decide that that's what you want to do, there's a responsibility that comes along with it, which means to be precautious, to be driving within speed limits, to make sure that you're observing what's coming in front of you and what have you. And I think we can't hammer that home more. We can't, you know.
Yeah, no, that's a very important reminder, and we hope, and especially around this time of year, as we move towards the end of December, we usually see more accidents too. These are preventable deaths, and we have to recognize our own individual responsibility. Even if you're walking or riding on the highway as well, you have a responsibility, right?
So that concludes our Eye on the News.
And before we move into our lineup for this morning, we do have one bit more of chit chat for you. And today is actually would have been Andy Palacio's birthday, and so you know, Andy Palacio is a legend for us. He accomplished so much in his life in terms of his music career, in promoting the Garifuna culture. And so today for Morning Tea, we're talking about what's your favorite Andy Palacio song? You want to start? There's so many.
Yeah, and I'm almost certain that the one that speaks to me the most, I'll give some backdrop. So I don't just put a song out there without any context or meaning, right? In 2008, I began listening intently to Andy Palacio's last album, Watina, right? This was after his death. And for me, the appreciation of that album, that body of work, speaks to a certain sense of spirituality, right? For me, right? And so there's this one song on there, it's called Aguyani Duhenyo, right? My relatives have gone on, right? This speaks to the passing of loved ones and perhaps dealing with that grief or that sense of sentiment. And so for me, listening to that album, this is to me the crown jewel. That's the song that spoke to me directly, right? But there's a whole bunch of Andy P songs for
I
any mood or any
know.
flavor you want, right? And I think of another one, Roots. That's the other one that just the rhythm, the drumming, and everything that speaks to me as well. But like I said, I mean, there's hardly an Andy P song for me that I don't find an appreciation for in any area of the Garifuna genre of music.
And he does have such an extensive body of work. That's why when I saw it, I was like, that's hard.
Yeah.
But I do have to, if I were to pin it down, I'll do two. So definitely Watina. I loved Watina.
Yeah.
And if that was to go with the more recent one, it was soulful. It was just, you know, everything about it. It takes me back. I was at that concert at Brody's parking lot. I think like all of Belize was that night. And there was just that moment when he was singing that song, and you just felt everyone was connected. It was so beautiful. And that's, every time I hear that song, I go back to that place. And so I love it. But I do have to say, if I'm really to dig into the Palacio files, Gimme Punta Rock has always been one of my favorite songs. It's just one of those songs, if you hear it, like you start singing it, and you start dancing. Like I'm not a great dancer, but I'll move to it at least. And so I've always loved that song. It's one that really kind of gets you in a good mood.
There are a few artists. I'm a music lover, bona fide, right? And I've always described the Palacio as an iconoclast because you have certain people whose music transcends just music alone. It speaks to certain aspects of life that you're able to relate to outside of or beyond music. You have Bob Marley for Jamaicans, you have John Lennon for the Britons, you have Michael Jackson for the Americans, and then we have the Palacio as our chief cultural icon, right? And so his body of work, the music that he put out during his career as an artist, I mean, speaks volumes. There's one for everybody. There's a song there for anyone.
So this is a great day for you to think of your favorite Andy Palacio song. You know, post it, share it, remind everyone why you love it, and just in commemoration of his birthday. We lost him way too soon. But his music lives on. All right, we got to get moving into our show for today, though. And we're starting off our conversation. December 1st, yesterday, was World AIDS Day. And so today we'll be having a conversation looking at the situation of HIV in Belize.
Our second conversation will be with the Belize Hotel Association as their biannual meeting seminar comes up this week.
And to close off our show, of course, we are talking about Christmas tree trends. We have a beautiful Christmas tree here. It was done by Confetti Belize, and Jaime Correa is going to stop in and he's going to tell us all about what's hot for this season. So that's what we have lined up. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll get right into our conversation. So stay tuned.
With over 100 years of service
we're back and we're moving into our first conversation for this morning as we have a conversation in commemoration of World AIDS Day on the situation of HIV in Belize. Today we have with us Dr. Russell Manzanero, who's an epidemiologist. He's the head of the unit for the Ministry of Health and also an advisor for the HIV program. We also have with us a very familiar face, Desmond Berry, and of course, Desmond is an advocate for people living with HIV after he lost his son earlier this year to HIV. Good morning, gentlemen,
morning.
and thank you for being here. So, December 1st is World AIDS Day, and Belize had their activities on Friday. Today is really an opportunity to kind of discuss in the larger picture just where we are, what are some of the issues we're seeing, and how the efforts are going to change the situation that we're seeing on the ground. And Dr. Manzanero, I wanted to start with you with just some stats. So the 2018 numbers were released, I think, last month.
Yes.
Can you tell us what the latest update is in terms of where we are with new infections and HIV?
Sure. I guess just to a recap on 2017 that we're starting seeing those numbers. We actually started seeing numbers in 220s since 2015 actually. But last year when we did our review of all cases, we started noticing that for 2018 there was a reported 254 cases. So it has gone up a bit. So those definitely we need to look at. As we've been looking at the previous years, the areas of concern are still in the Belize district, Stan Creek and Cayo districts. So those are the areas that are having more cases. Similarly, those are the areas that we are actually doing more testing. So we've been focusing on these areas. Large-scale testing has been carried out at the facilities. We try to do mobiles, and we're actually engaging other entities to actually do testing now, such as BFLA that does HIV testing as well.
Yeah.
So we're trying to expand that. So the testing in itself for this year will increase. But for 2018, we had approximately 40,000 tests carried out.
Oh,
So
that's an increase.
Yes. From the previous years at 35,000, we've had about 5,000 more tests done for 2018. Like I mentioned, 254 new cases, and it's predominantly more in males. So we continue to see that number increase in the male population. In regards to mortality, then it's the same scenario. It's the same areas that we're seeing these high rates of mortality. And we're seeing these deaths as well in males. So it's still pretty much as in previous years as well.
When you look at the figures, it shows that there are 4,915 persons living with HIV/AIDS as of 2018. When you compare that against the total population of the country, it would seem as if though it's a very small percentage. But when you look at it in terms of perhaps regionally, what are we seeing?
No, definitely it's a concern. Even though you see the numbers, for us it's still an alarm. I mean, when you're talking about 4,000 and add individuals who we believe are living with HIV, because that's an estimate.
Yeah.
It's not entirely what we know. So it's individuals who are out there who still do not know their status.
Yeah.
So it's just an estimate that we have, but individuals who we know and have been diagnosed, who are on treatment, is probably like 1,400. When you're talking about race, for example, you're talking about over the population, the severity of HIV in Belize. Actually, yeah, we are high when we talk to comparing in comparison to the Caribbean and to Central America. So in the Caribbean, for example, we are one of the leading countries that are there with those rates for HIV high. So.
And from your knowledge, why is it that we are seeing so many new cases? Because let me be clear, 200 something it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you compare us to the region, that's where we start to see that we are seeing far more cases than our Caribbean, other Caribbean countries are seeing.
No, definitely. I can't speak about the other countries. I know that similarly they have their own estimates and projections as well. For us, we're seeing that as you mentioned, when you're tying in about other things that might factor into why screenings are not being carried out or why we're not doing more testing, could be many factors. There's so many social issues behind it as well, but there's also the large component of stigma and discrimination which is still present. So even though it is something that we've been coming a long way since the 1980s, we're talking about this, there is still much stigma around it. So definitely those kind of things can actually hinder you from getting tested and knowing your status.
Desmond, this is a great time, I think, to bring you in because there are two things I wanted to look at. Just oftentimes, we don't start paying attention to an issue till it hits close to home. That's just who we are as humans. How much were you aware of the situation of HIV and what was available and what the challenges were before your son was diagnosed?
I was quite ignorant to the fact about HIV. I knew about it. Magic Johnson came out publicly. That's when I first knew about HIV/AIDS. But here in Belize, I didn't know much until my son got infected. That's when we started doing the research and trying to reach out to the different departments to find out what and how we can do about it.
What was that experience like for you? I'm gathering it's a journey that you took along with your son.
The experience was a very painful experience. To see my firstborn ailing with pain and trying to get the different medications to keep him going. The times he would take the medication, he starts feeling well, he would get off the medication because, I'm okay now. Then he falls back into some kind of a depression or something, then he has to go back to the medical facility to get help.
Yeah.
But he didn't, he was never compliant with the different medical facilities because he would stay in like one day and then sign himself out because he's like, I don't want to stay in there. I just think that it's things like these that the Ministry of Health would need to start training the different people that works along with them to talk to these patients as to like, if you're going to the medical facility, you need to stay there until the treatment is over and not walk out before then because that's what brings him down as well. But the journey with him was very, very painful.
Did he receive any form of counseling as he went through this process?
There are times, he did receive counseling, but for some reason when he hits the depression rock again, it's like he didn't want any part of it.
Yeah. And I think this is where you cannot separate what is a medical issue from what is a physical issue in terms of your physical health to your mental health, but also fitting in within the context of the wider society, because that's where a lot of the discrimination can lead to, degradation in your mental
Because
health.
society doesn't accept that individual once they know that he or she's infected.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest problems I see in Belize.
Yeah.
I would have thought that we've come a long way nonetheless. I mean, you mentioned in the 80s when Magic Johnson came out as perhaps the first major well-known figure in sports to come forward and say, look, I am HIV positive. I recall being a child at that time, and initially I thought that was something that was in America.
Not in Belize.
Until I had my own experience meeting someone or learning that an individual who was in the neighborhood where I grew up was also HIV positive and had been living with complications for quite a while before he passed. And so the stigma back then was very strong. We're talking in the 80s, early 90s. But for some reason, I believe perhaps the conversation has become commonplace where I thought it's not as strong as perhaps back then when we were ignorant to the whole issue of HIV/AIDS. Do you believe that it's sort of tapered down, or it's still very much present in terms of the stigma?
No, as you mentioned, we've come a long way, indeed. I mean, from the first years when we started with it, and it was so pronounced, the stigma was there. I mean, the efforts that everybody has been putting into it, not only health, but other individuals as well that work along with us, to disseminate information. It's actually sensitizing the public, the knowledge behind it, the education behind it as well. HIV is now termed a chronic illness, so that means that if once you are infected, you can stay on your medication, change your lifestyle behaviors, as we do for diabetes and hypertension, you can lead a normal life. So that's where we're trying to work at and to do that. Mr. Berry mentioned something about Ministry of Health probably looking at different ways with how we can get individuals to stay on board. I do agree, and we're working at that. So we have continuous training with our personnel as well to do all of those. I mean, but a part of it, and I think where we need to look at is patient readiness. That patient readiness in itself means that you need to be mentally able to want to start treatment. I need to accept my status. I need to be able to do the things that I need to do to make those changes. We cannot tell you as a medical officer, as a healthcare provider, that you should be on treatment, on start treatment. When you start to do these things, and it's similar to all the chronic illnesses for diabetes, hypertension, and cancer, that you know this is what you need to do, and this is something that I need to accept. So until you are ready and you know that you're going to start the treatment and stay on it and do these lifestyle changes, then that patient readiness is when we can say, okay, this individual can actually stay on treatment and continue on treatment. However, with that comes the counseling and everything else. So it is, and we do recognize that mental health in Belize is something that we're not focusing on fully. It's still something ongoing, and we need to get more of that addressed in the health system too.
Well, you know, and you mentioned diabetes, and I think to myself, I know so many diabetics who don't maintain their medication, their diet, you know, all of these things. You're right, an acceptance of your diagnosis, and also being able to recognize that the life I had before is over. The new life, which isn't a bad one, will include these additional steps. And that's a big shift for any individual to make. But what is different with HIV versus diabetes is the real stigma that people face. And I'm still fascinated every time, not even fascinated, it's disgusting when I still hear stories of people being ostracized by families. You know, they don't want to touch them, they don't want to share cups or plates or all these things that cannot transmit the disease, to be clear, or even, you know, losing their jobs over their status being known. So you have this very real issue of being treated poorly as a result of having a disease that, you're right, people can live with.
Yes.
How do we work towards overcoming that? I know, Desmond, this is your personal experience.
Family counseling, I think what the ministry could do is like, because they know these individuals that are positive. I think what they need to do is to get into that individual home and speak to the family members to let them be aware of what can happen and what cannot happen. Because of the absence of that counseling, even the family members are very ignorant to it.
But Desmond, what was the difference between you and these other families that, you know, I've interviewed people that live in a shack in the backyard. They can't go in the main house. What's the difference between you and other families that ostracized? Why were you so open to helping your child through this journey?
It's something that it's a choice that he made from the get-go, that he wanted to be open about it. He didn't want to hide from anyone. I mean, so our support was key. And loving him, not putting him somewhere else to sleep, but instead in his room, in our home, was key to keeping him like going until he couldn't go anymore.
No, I'm hearing, Mr. Varian, of course, one of the biggest things that we need here is support. I mean, the family support is so key. That when somebody is with any illness, then you need to have that support to actually keep going and to do all those changes as well. I mean, he is mentioning that we should offer some kind of support. Indeed, it's true. And in that, we're trying to look at working along with new individuals. We call them adherence counselors, to actually go out and seek individuals who need that kind of support. We're going to work along with the social workers, of course, and mental health. So it's an integrated system that we are actually trying to work with them. But these individuals would follow these individuals who might actually have a difficult time to adhere on treatment. And these are the ones that we're going to try to work with even more. Similar to what we do. We already do this with TB. So we're trying to look at different ways that we can do it as well for HIV.
I think one of the conversations that shouldn't be lost in this broader discussion that we're having here is the scarcity of treatment. And I know it's a discussion that is ongoing, considering the fact that the ministry has been trying to source medication from other areas. In terms of outreach and dealing with persons who are living with HIV/AIDS, what has that been like, knowing that, you know what, there's a serious shortage of medication to provide for these individuals?
Probably I'm not too clear on the question, but just to highlight on the access to services. When you're talking about access to services, it includes the entire package. It's the integrated way of how we're going to do it's the treatment, the care, the follow-ups, the adherence. And in one part is the medication availability, which of course there is some shortage, as you mentioned. However, when we look at those things, it's trying to overcome and see where we can get those medications to always be available. We do recognize that there are some issues right now with our suppliers.
Yeah.
And it's definitely so that even so that to get these medications on board, I know discussions were that we don't have the money or we don't know. The money is there. We work with a set budget every year, and this is the monies that we have for everything, testing, kits, milk for babies who are exposed. All of these come out of the budget.
Yeah.
So we have that money, but when we do the process of actually procuring the medication, it has taken a lengthy time. And when you're dealing with individuals, I mean, we do get them from an Indian company or other companies who are WHO certified. So they need to meet standards as well. But the delay in the process of actually getting them in the country is somewhat, it's troublesome when you try to hear, and these are the issues that we recognize, that when you hear them say, oh, we can't supply the country because it's a very small production or because there are mass productions in other areas, it's something that we need to address. Other ways that we've been dealing with it is actually getting assistance from PAHO as well to actually look at different ways that we can get the medications in as well. So, so that is something that we're trying to look at too, so definitely.
Yeah. You know, it is a concerning situation, and while I think that the explanation does allow us to understand a bit more from the ministry's end, you know, for the individual who's looking at 2 pills left and they know the consequences of stopping the medication. I mean, this is life or death. This, let's not mince words. This is perhaps developing a resistance to the medication, not having one that will work on them, diminishing health. And so the consequences, I feel, are just way too grave when you talk about what has taken place with procurement. So my question really has to do with realizing now that this is an issue, and it's one that I'm very sure, knowing people in the Ministry of Health, that you guys are not happy with as well. What will be done to ensure that there is a constant supply?
The medications of present, I know you're talking about a shortage, you mentioned it, but it's not all. It's not all the medications. It's actually just a certain regimen that we stocked out. So when you're talking about that, it's actually looking at ways that case management of cases. So you look at the cases, for example, a majority of our patients are on this specific regimen.
Okay.
So we've done training with physicians and healthcare providers that there are other regimens that are available and still here in Belize as well. However, to keep the constant flow is that we are actually getting assistance from member states or we're getting assistance from PAHO.
Yeah.
So those kind of medications are here. We already have the medications in the country.
Okay.
So those are no longer an issue. But to get the constant supply from these suppliers is what we're trying to look at too.
Yeah, yeah. And to be fair, as you've said before, there are a lot of services offered by the Ministry of Health. One, you get tested for free. That does come along with counseling. You get medications for free in this country as well. Yes. And you also get, because we have the testing machine for the viral load, you also get your viral load test, which means you can actually get the virus suppressed in your body to the point that it is undetectable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So these are all great, I think they're definitely necessary steps that's been taken by the Ministry of Health. So you have all these services, but what we need now are the people to get tested, to get on the medication, and to stay on the medication. So it's really about being able to communicate to people why we should be paying attention to HIV and following through with, or starting off with just getting tested. And how do we get there?
I mean, we have, I have to talk about the NAC.
Yeah,
I mean, the National AIDS Commission is there, is a secretariat who looks at all of that.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ministry of Health is there to do the care, providing the care, the services, everything is there from our end. But I believe the bigger picture that what you're trying to allude to is more the response.
Yeah.
The response in itself is much more than the Ministry of Health.
Yeah.
And the National AIDS Commission is there to look at the coordinating bodies.
Yeah.
Everybody who should be there at the table to address the response. So when you're talking about education, sensitization, coordination, communication, education, all of those things is what the National AIDS Commission looks at. And there are many partners that sit on that AIDS Commission that should be working together to address these kind of issues.
Yeah.
So these are the things that we're trying to work with the National AIDS Commission, because we do have our part as the Ministry of Health, but there are so many others that will actually fall in place to actually address the response, so definitely.
And we know that discrimination is one of the top issues that we keep on talking about as well, because discrimination will stop you from even getting tested. And that's the first step in terms of knowing your status. Desmond, that brings me back to you for a second, because where we have been able to talk about how your family was supportive to your son, his challenges lied in the wider community.
Yeah. In the workplace.
He lost his job.
Yeah, he lost his job on 3
Did
different
they
occasions.
tell him it was because of HIV, or it was just one of those things that you knew?
I knew it was that because he was a hard worker. He never had issues with anyone at the workplace, and some of the guys that he worked with would complain because he would have to take time to go take some kind of medication or something, and they were like all annoyed because like, oh, he has to take time off, you know, and sooner or later they would just like give him a letter saying, oh, your service is no longer required.
But ought they to have made some form of accommodation, knowing what the condition is in respect of this
I wish they
employee?
would, but most employers, they're just like many, they're ignorant to the fact that, you know, this is not a disease that by shaking your hand I'm gonna get it.
Yeah.
You know, and they need to do their part as well as to educate their employees
Yeah.
about the disease.
Yeah.
Or like the ministry would like, to me, get into the high schools and do some kind of educational program about it, because there's so much, how can I say this? There's so much sexual activities happening in the high schools or at the primary level. I mean, and these kids are experimenting sex to a level that when we were kids, we'd never thought about these things. So therefore, to me, I think the ministry needs to get in there and start doing something about it, because I'm pretty sure if they do some kind of AIDS test in those schools, it'd be like alarming. It would be alarming. I'm pretty sure of that.
Probably just to highlight that we do work along with the Ministry of Education. I mean, there are instances that we do go into the schools, we go to the high schools as well, to that level to give this kind of education and communication around the topic. So it's HIV, STI, CB. So that's what we work with. But indeed, this is where, as I mentioned, the AIDS Commission comes in, and these are the agencies that should be aware and actually be working along with us as well. So definitely there is a need to look at these things. So.
Yeah, and not to be, we need to be clear and say we are making some progress. We're seeing less, well, there's a little increase from last year, but it's not the spike that we saw earlier. A few years back with HIV. But I want to ask you, Dr. Manzanero, as the epidemiologist, from all the data that's been collected, what particular area concerns you the most? You look at the numbers, you see where the trends are. What concerns you the most?
I think it's getting individuals to recognize that they need to get the testing done. I mean, we've been doing our part. I mean, we keep pushing to get tested. We take individuals out from the facilities to go to the regions. They're going to go out there and hold these mobiles, come and get tested. So the public awareness, perhaps we need to look more at that. We need to actually look at different populations as well that we need to target.
Yeah.
I mean, I
The
understand
elderly?
and I hear different things. When you look at the age groups, of course, we know that, as you mentioned, individuals are sexually active. I mean, from a very young age, these things, but the exposure that they have now is there at their hands, that they get this kind of information. If we don't give them that information, they're going to go and get misled somewhere else. So that's one population that we need to work at, the younger population, but we also need to look at the later stages. What is happening? We're trying to understand why now these trends of why there's an increase in the older population. Why is it now that we're seeing over 50 getting tested and becoming reactive? So these are things that we need to look at. What's the nature of it? And of course, we need to do some more
I'm so glad you
research
brought
on
that
it.
up. I did a story last week on that very same issue, and you know what it made me realize is that there are no messages for people over 50 to get tested. And I don't know what the 2018 stat says, but the last two, 16 and 17, clearly shows that that is a population that is being registered as new infections, almost 20%, 15, 20%.
Oh, definitely. It's not only Belize, but we're trying to look at, for example, when you're looking in the region, for example, it's something that is an alarm that we're starting to see that after 50, we're starting to see increase of cases, particularly in males as well. So what is happening? And then we're starting to see an increase of younger women becoming exposed, in the earlier ages. Of course, when you talk about the testing numbers, you're going to see more women test.
Yeah.
But we need to factor in that this is part of their screening as well for adults and health,
Yeah.
pregnancies, MCH, the maternal child component. That's their strong and their forte to actually be screening for these kinds of things. So we know that women are, and we capture that, but we need to be a little bit more for men, targeted for men.
Yeah.
I think even with the generation gap, I think it's something that we haven't been discussing.
Yeah.
But we really can't tailor messages to an older population and the younger population. It's quite different. I mean,
Yeah.
the disparities there is clear. So we need to be very innovative, I think is the word, of how we're going to target the young population who deals with the media and the older population, as you mentioned, that there are different ways that we need to approach, and we just can't tailor for one.
That's right. Well, we're completely out of time, and I knew this conversation was going to zip by. I just want to ask you, just Desmond, just with your experience, I think you could give us the closing thoughts in terms of just reminding people why they need to be more caring and compassionate to people who are living with HIV.
I just think that if your son or your daughter, your brother or sister come and say, you know what, I got tested and I'm positive, show that person love. You know, that's to me that's the main thing that would keep that person active or want to take his or her medication is love. If you don't show them love, and they won't get it out there. There's no way they're going to get the love out there, because everyone is going to be like, no, I'm not going to, or if they have a partner, that partner support is very key. Not to walk away from that relationship because he or she is infected, but instead get the necessary information as to how you can continue in that relationship, being active with each other.
All right. Thank you for just a brief conversation on HIV this morning. And once again, the testing services are available at the Ministry of Health clinics, and you can get it for free. It comes along with counseling, and if you are positive, you do get your medication for free as well. So know your status, please. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking to representatives of the Belize Hotel Association. So please stay tuned.
Passports are cool, and the girls.
And welcome back. We're kicking off our second segment this morning with a conversation with our good friends from the Belize Hotel Association as they prepare for the biannual meeting of the association. We have on set with us the president of the Belize Hotel Association, Ted Tejada.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
We also have Rashid Gervan. He is the regional digital manager for Yellow Media Group. Good morning.
Good
Morning.
morning.
Good morning.
The biannual meeting, what's on the agenda for this year?
You
For
know,
this meeting.
as you know, tourism is a key industry in the country of Belize. So every 6 months we provide updates to the industry. But this particular biannual, we're going to be, the theme of it is being in the micro moment.
Okay.
That is our theme for this conference. We know that technology has taken over most of the bookings around the world. And in Belize, because of adding internet, as you know, throughout the country, it is becoming easier to make your booking. So we have brought in some excellent speakers to speak on technology and how can it enhance your hotel in terms of bookings, of revenue. So Mr. Rashid actually arrived yesterday to enlighten us. How can Yellow Media Group, or what are they seeing in their trending for their different business? Because they only not do hotels, but they do restaurants, they do malls, all kinds of businesses. So they have a lot of information and data of what is trending with the customers nowadays.
Yeah. And you know, I read Micro Moment, it's funny. Because it just reminds me very much of how you think of how quickly we process things and how quickly we judge things when we're online. That's what I was thinking of. So especially if I'm looking for a restaurant and I'm traveling, I make my decisions fairly fast. I just quickly look at reviews, and you know, it's going to be a hit and miss. I don't know if my style is any different from anyone else's. So when you say micro moment, it makes me feel like you have a very small window to get people to want to venture to your hotel or restaurant.
That's exactly right. So micro moment was a term coined by Google, though the phenomena was not invented by Google.
Yeah.
And what I will focus on, and part of my presentation, is trying to explain what the micro moment is, and from a perspective of the business owner, so that the better you understand what it is, what makes it work, the more you'll be able to put it to work for you. And so we're going to be talking about changes in the travel industry, the purchasing patterns. Truth of the matter is, some customers are actually going to book in a much narrower window, while some are going to be booking in a much longer window. And it's difficult for hoteliers to be able to navigate between one extreme to the next. So we'll be focusing on some of that, as well as some key tips about how to help to improve the digital and helping to make the internet work for your business.
Well, what's the biggest change that we're seeing that we need to prepare for in terms of how people are booking or deciding where they want to go?
User behavior. Understanding the evolution of the customer and understanding their user behavior and keeping in tune with what triggers them to make a decision or not make a decision is one of the major deficits for not only hoteliers but for business owners in general.
Yeah. But I mean, each user is different. Naturally, each human is different. Age demographics will be different. How my socioeconomic status will make a difference. So how do you, where do you hone in to understand which behavior? Because you can't know all.
No. So, for example, the micro moment. What the micro moment is basically the response to stimulus. So I see, for example, a beautiful sunset on somebody's Facebook or Instagram, and it says, this is in Belize. Right away, I'm going to reach for my phone and start to research on this place, this resort. And that is actually a micro moment. It starts the thinking, it starts the process of looking into this destination. And so while there are many types of micro moments, while there are many stimulus that exist, different people, even though age, gender, interest, socioeconomic, all different factors will contribute, there are certain inherent user behaviors that are common throughout. And it is now going to be able to tap into those. The other thing that is very important is, to that point, you cannot be everything to all people.
That's correct.
And so one of the main areas that we want to focus on as well is knowing who your customers are, who your ideal customers are, and being able to differentiate the market. You will never be able to cover the entire market. And chances are you don't need to, because you will have a set amount of capacity for your rooms or your restaurants, or if you're operating a general store, you do have capacity. But there is a difference between somebody who is your ideal customer based on your infrastructure and what you provide. And so we help our customers to identify the ideal customer and to reach them in order to get more of that ideal customer.
How are we with that? Because I think, we talk about Belize and what we identify as a destination, but each individual property also has their own unique personality.
When we came up with this topic, being in the micro moment, because, like I said, a lot of it is going via the internet, and being that Belize, we're getting globalized with the internet, I realized, okay, what is really the micro moment? And we must attribute this to, I would say, Steve Jobs. He was the one that came up with the first phone that was able to do not just a phone, but that you can browse, you can watch a movie. And I realized nowadays, you don't have to wait on Friday to get that newspaper in your hands. You are actually, as you wake up, you're checking what's happening around the world, what's happening in Belize. If somebody's tuning in right now and they see it's sunny, they see that shirt, they go on the internet and they can find that shirt and they can buy it. It's the micro moment. They see something in a microsecond and they process it. I like that. I want that.
And take action.
And with the internet, it's the press of a button and it's being shipped to your house tomorrow. So that is what the micro moment is. And when I look at Belize, we recently did some studies at the Biltmore, and we started to play with different ads. And I realized that there's one item that really touches human beings in Belize, is putting an ad with small kids.
We did. I thought you were going to say food.
that is one, but we put an ad for a cooking class with kids, and I can tell you within 15 minutes, 15 minutes we were sold out.
Wow.
We had sold out the spaces. That's the fastest that we have ever sold anything at the Biltmore. We have good cooks, but that's the fastest we ever sold. And then I realized, when you're playing with different things, the micro moment, when they see something, it's a millisecond that they have. What will capture their attention? So when I look at throughout the country of Belize, there's resorts all over. And many of them are saying, oh, we're slow. What can you play with your locals? What can you do for your local people? How can you tap in something like Facebook that is free? You have a free platform at your fingertips. And that's why we're bringing Mr. Dominic Namis. He's a local Belizean that went abroad, studied, and now he works for Facebook. He's going to be sharing at the conference what are people or business doing on Facebook that is actually helping them. So it's very interesting.
I'm sure it is, because I think, after a certain age, it's all a guessing game for the rest of us, right? Because, and I think the challenge is that we separate our usage from what we think our customers are doing.
Correct.
Yes.
So I think, I scroll on this, I check that, I like, your cooking class. But my customers, I wonder what they're doing.
Yes.
And is that part of it, that we don't realize that we are users as well?
That is a huge part of it, the cognitive bias, where we think that our user behavior, our individual behavior, and that of our families is what is normal. And that absolutely is not the case. Many times as marketers, we'll have to say, you're not marketing to yourself.
Yes.
And in trying to understand who the ideal customer is and trying to understand their shopper journey, that helps us to craft a unique selling opportunity for you in order to reach your customers where they are, who are interested in sports, for example, or in yoga, or in the environment, in health and wellness, in the environment. Different people, irrespective of their demographic makeup, they're interested in something else. And trying to tap into those interests is really where digital separates itself and comes alive.
That's correct.
There's also an issue, though, of authenticity, because oftentimes I remember seeing this article about how Instagram influencers are moving away from what used to be the trend before, which was bright walls, pretty curated photos, into more immersive experiences because people were fatigued with all the very pretty photos. So what can happen, I imagine, is that for Belize, we have beautiful sunsets, we have beautiful coastal areas, and so everyone may kind of buy into this generic image of what Belize is. But really and truly, I could end up booking a sunset picture above the sea, but I'm really booking a jungle destination and be disappointed when I get there.
That's right. And the truth is that for social, you're right, it has moved away from the perfect scenario to a little more imperfect content, but it's real, it's authentic, and so people are more open and expecting and inviting of that authentic experience and information.
And I think I would like to add to that, because I actually had a customer just last week that was sharing with me that she went to a restaurant because she saw a picture of a plate on Instagram. She fell in love with that plate of food. So she went to the restaurant, she ordered the same thing. And you know what? It was not the same when she got it. So she took both, the picture that was on their Instagram and the picture that she had, and she posted both. And she swore never to go back to that restaurant. So,
and that's the issue with, or maybe they don't even have it on the menu.
That's correct.
And that's the, because when you're trying to figure it out, you see somebody else do something that works, and you say, okay, I'll do that too, because it'll get people to my property or to my restaurant. But then they get there and they don't get the experience they expect. So I'd imagine authenticity is very key in all of this as well.
But isn't there an element somewhat of like false advertising, if that's what you're looking at? If you're portraying something, to the world via this particular medium, but the experience is totally different, then essentially you're misleading your public.
You're right in that respect. And so one of the best practices for social media is to create content, but also to curate content. And so to tap into user-generated content. So one of the recommendations is as much as 50% of your social media posts should be retweets or reposts from your customers.
That's good.
That's right.
And so even though the lighting may be off or the picture framing may be a little off, the fact that you're reposting something from one of your guests or one of your customers, the fact that it is authentic and you're now putting it on your platform, it legitimizes the business, it makes it more real, and so it also helps to manage the expectations of the public.
Absolutely.
That's correct.
And it shows that others are using or enjoying your products and services. So let's just dive right in here. I know you have a presentation to make today, but we want to take advantage of the fact that you're here. What do you find to be some of the common mistakes that people make when they venture into digital marketing or the digital world?
Expectations. The expectations are skewed. Usually the expectation is either that digital is entirely free. For example, on social media. The fact of the matter is that 3 years ago, the organic reach or the naturally occurring reach for a business, when a business make a post, between every year it has come down significantly.
Yeah.
And so even though Facebook has over 2 billion users actively, Instagram is one of the largest growth platforms. However, it is for users primarily to share images and videos and so on. As a business, you have, Ted said, a microsecond. It's less than 2 seconds, the time when your thumb scrolls up, for you to engage with a customer.
That's correct.
Yeah.
What is your scrolling stopping power?
Yeah.
That's one thing. Another thing I'll talk about is the fact that if your page on social media is only centered around ads and centered around your brand and your products, what is the what user benefit or value are you providing?
Yeah.
Why should somebody, whoever it is, try and visit your page? So social media, the use and strategy behind social media is one of the major areas for not only local businesses, but I think for businesses as a Caribbean whole to improve on. The next thing is not paying enough attention to the quality of the website. We know the power of search on Google, voice search, as well as when you type in.
Yeah.
Where does Google get that information from? The truth of the matter is it's getting it from your website or some other content that is online. Use the website in order to manage the quality of the content being put out to the public.
That's so key because a lot of times people want to abandon websites to go just for social, but really they should be integrated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can you, I mean, is this the new way of doing business? Is this, what are we seeing? Are people just discovering on social and then going to websites to purchase? Are we seeing that as the new trend, or is it still a mix of traditional?
It depends on the type of business. I will say, however, that advertising in general is communicating your message to your public where they are. Full stop. And so as a digital manager regionally, my preference and my affinity is towards digital. But as a marketer, I have to acknowledge the presence and the importance of TV, of radio, of print, because if those media channels have the opportunity to reach your public, then it is still effective. And so what I advocate for, and I've seen for literally all of my clients, irrespective of the industry, irrespective of the size, is a multi-channel approach. So what you have on social should be complemented through your website. And by the way, you can send the TV ads or electronic ads and the out-of-home ads, send people to the website. And so it's one ecosystem. A multi-channel approach still is the best way.
Yeah, so it's like a team, your own marketing team, your social, your website, your advertisement.
That's correct.
Rather than focusing on just one. This must be a really exciting day ahead. I'm sure you're booked out for your...
Actually for tomorrow. It's going to be in San Ignacio, at the San Ignacio Hotel. It starts at 9 o'clock. We have 4 interesting speakers. We have Mr. Rashid, who's going to be speaking on digital media. We have Mr. Bram as well. He's from Travel Click. Travel Click is a company that focuses on the booking channels, revenue management. They're going to be looking at how not only selling, but how do you maximize your revenue through these different channels. Because if you have, for example, we have 90 rooms. Every day we have 90 rooms. But there are certain days that can yield my rate for a higher because the demand is there. And they will show you the technology that you can study these trends and do that. Then we have Mr. Minor LaRue. He is the market manager for Expedia. He's grown Belizean. He's our local Belizean as well. He knows the industry. He knows Belize. He knows now what Expedia is using, the different platforms. He's going to be sharing. I was at the conference just last week with him, where Expedia has partnered, for example, with an airline, with Air Canada and United. So if you buy a hotel and an air ticket through Expedia, your flight gets canceled, Expedia automatically sends an email to the hotel saying, Mr. Chian is not going to be coming in such and such because his flight got canceled.
Yeah.
So that communication is a great medium.
Yeah,
very
and
powerful.
convenience.
And convenience. And Mr. Dominic, he's going to be speaking on Facebook. As we know, Rashid just mentioned there's about over 2.5 million active users on Facebook itself. An individual spends about 2.5 hours a day on Facebook. So capitalizing and using the different mediums that they have on Facebook to promote your message. And every day, I mean, we recently did a study, every day Belizeans are looking at different products. So today, for example, you might want to eat pasta. So you're looking for a restaurant that has pasta food.
Yeah.
But on a Friday, you're looking for more of a tapas food and having some entertainment. So understanding them and seeing what a customer, the local Belizean, is looking for to promote your product and capture that business.
And the association itself, everyone is on board. They're willing to move and explore into their digital product.
You know, I was just sharing it, Rashid, that over the years, the association has done a lot of traveling and actually face-to-face marketing through trade shows. We still do over 22 international trade shows. We travel Europe, Canada, South America, and promote Belize. The last year, we entered into what is the digital realm, and we are more and more interested into the digital realm. Why? Because we can actually quantify it.
Yeah.
Through the digital realm, we can know which customers coming, which country, what time of the day, what are they looking.
So digital meetings.
It's just mostly digital.
And it's cheaper.
It's a lot cheaper. So we are partnering with these gentlemen, with their companies, because they have data, they have statistics. And to be honest, it's working.
Yeah. And so you've done some ground research in Belize to know where we are?
Yes.
Okay.
I've actually been here a few times.
Yeah.
I've been on the ground. I've had the pleasure of visiting a couple of your districts. And so I do know a little bit more about the local landscape, but also to refresh, because the thing about digital is that what happened in January of this year, now in December, is
different.
now dated information. So yes, I have had the pleasure of being here before and researching on your lovely country. So.
And are we taking advantage of the micro moment?
There's room for improvement.
Nice diplomatic answer. That means everybody can go and hear from Rashid and the other speakers tomorrow in San Ignacio.
In San Ignacio.
Is there a cost to attending?
You know, for members, it's free. It's from 9 to 12. If it's a non-member, we do charge $40 for the simple reason that we do provide lunch for every participant.
Okay.
And at 1 o'clock from 1 to 4, it's the biannual. It's actually what the association is doing for its members.
Yeah.
And from 4 to 6, we have a cocktail because we do have 23 booths of people that represent tourism at the conference there that you can be able to trade and do business as well.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you for giving us a bit more than a micro moment in sharing what you're going to be doing tomorrow. Best of luck. I'm sure it's going to be great conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You.
All right. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, what's trending in Christmas trees this year? We'll find out with confetti after the break.
can't be playing a real life.
And we're back, and we're moving into our final conversation for today. And this is a very important one because we are talking about trends for Christmas. We have with us on set Jaime Correa of Confetti Belize. Good morning.
Hi, morning Marlene, morning Isani.
Morning.
So Jaime, first of all, we want to say beautiful tree this morning. This is a product of yours that you've put together for us for this season. So let's talk about what you have here.
Okay. First of all, we start with the colors.
Yeah.
Basically, one of the evolving and one of the trending colors this year, a couple of them, is actually the whole concept of going traditional. Obviously, we've seen all kinds of colors coming up over the past years. We've seen oranges, we've seen black, we've seen every shade of color that you want.
Yeah.
And this year, everything is stepping back to tradition. So traditionally, red, white, and green have been the colors of choice. And that is why we decided to incorporate that. I mean, we want to take the kids from now back into an era where we grew up, what Christmas was like and stuff like that. Obviously, we do add a little bit of a modern twist and stuff, but the colors generally remain red, white, and green.
Yeah. Green is always tricky to pull off on trees because your tree is green.
Yeah.
I had that disaster one year. It's like without the lights, you don't see anything. Yeah.
That's right. What I did in this tree is incorporate a different shade of green than the tree so that then it becomes more noticeable.
Okay. And you're looking at different colors, different sizes, different shapes. Just give us the basics once again. How do you start off in knowing how you want to put the tree together?
This tree, I can definitely say is a pride and joy because it comprised of recycled ornaments. Every year we see flocks of people going to the store, purchasing all new ornaments, all new lights, all new ribbons. This year, because we're going traditional, everybody has a little bit of ornaments from past years and stuff like that. So we tried getting ribbons, sprays, flowers, ornaments that we previously used and incorporate them to create the look that we wanted. The only thing that we purchased were these small little ornaments. Everything else is recycled. We're big in recycling. We're big in reusing. So everything on the tree is something that we had previously owned.
For the most part, many homes do recycle, correct? Because once you've purchased a Christmas tree and all the ornaments and the lights and everything, when the season is done, you put it away. You use it again the following year. And you perhaps only purchase new items if
add-ons.
Yeah, add-ons, or in an event where something broke, something goes broke, or you know, that sort of stuff. So, in terms of being able to promote the traditional aspect, as you're saying, how do you do that if, for instance, last year you purchased a lot of whites or a lot of other colors, and you're looking to add on this year?
Okay. Well, one of the main things about the tree is that it's supposed to reflect your personality. It's supposed to reflect your tastes and things that you like. So if you had only white, then that means if you're going to go purchase, then just include a little bit of the traditional colors. But who says traditional is red, white, and green? That could be what we hypothetically know overall as being traditional. But if you grew in a family where the tradition was blue and white, then by all means, I mean, you can incorporate the blue as well. So it really depends, again, on your personality and your taste. It's just the overall concept that because the tree is green and the red and the white always complemented with the poinsettias and stuff like that.
You could use the ribbons too, right? Like you've always said that ribbons are a great way to accentuate.
Yes, ribbons are a great way to accentuate. The key about ribbons is using different sizes, different colors, and different textures. That is going to create a difference in the tree. It's going to create depth so that then you can see a different the overall look will come out very different.
And all you do is use the tree itself to keep the ribbon in place. There's
All
no
you do
big
is-
trick about it.
No big trick about it. You keep intertwining it around the tree, around ornaments. In this case, what I did is that I did the lights first. Then, believe it or not, the tree is full of tinsel. All the way
I
inside.
don't see it. Oh,
All the way inside.
yeah.
Properly hidden.
So that it gives a little bit of shimmer when you look at it. Thereafter, we added the small ornaments, the big ornaments, the ribbons, and lastly, the loops.
Oh wait, you put small ornaments first.
Yes.
Oh.
So that I know that they have enough space for hanging and they fall very loosely.
Okay. So what's one thing that you don't want to do when you're putting up your Christmas tree? What's a mistake that you see people make that they can avoid?
I do not like, personally, I do not like patterns. I do not like seeing the tree with just a string of ornaments in one direction or lights in a given direction.
Yeah.
But again, if that reflects your personality, then by all means. That is just one thing that I don't like really doing.
Yeah.
I like something more of a eclectic feel for things to like just work and blend with each other rather than forcing it with each other.
What if you have like just a little too much decoration on the tree? Can there be such a thing? Because I don't know, like for me personally, if I'm watching a tree, I don't want too much of any one thing on there. It's supposed to reflect a certain balance.
Yeah, I believe that there is a certain balance. As in everything, if you put too much sugar in your coffee, it clouds you. So I think the same thing would happen with ornaments. If there's just too much of something, you will see it and it won't be visually appealing.
Yeah.
Again, but if that goes with your personality, then
I think it's once the tree makes you happy. Like that's what we want to work towards.
You walk into a place or you walk into someone's living room and they have their tree and you have lights, decorations, cards, you could barely even see the tree.
Yeah.
I think that's overwhelming. Like
Yes.
you have to have some sense of, okay, this is still a Christmas tree.
the tree becomes the focal point of many homes during Christmas, other than it's the area where all the gifts are stored.
Yeah.
So keeping it, again, visually appealing is very important. I mean, there are other ways of displaying cards. Maybe you have a small table where you can stand them up so that they can also be visible. So it really depends on the size of space that you're working with and all of that. Because if you have a very small 3 or 4 foot tree, it doesn't make sense to stock up all the cards in there as well.
Absolutely. Well, I want to touch on some of the unique things you did here. First of all, let's start with the skirt, because that was one of my stresses this year. I couldn't get a skirt that matched, but you just made it so easy.
Well, basically what I did is again, with the whole concept of recycling, what's the use of going to spend $100 and $150 on a tree skirt? All I did is I had excess white fabric at home. So basically all I did is cover the base of the tree and tucked it in nicely so that it covers it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it contrasts the red and the green of the tree.
Yeah.
So I think it worked well here.
No, it looks great when you watch it on the camera. And then the top. We have moved away from the traditional star to just about anything, and this looks great.
For a couple of years now, I haven't really been using a star. Again, because you have to go and purchase a star. You have to go find an angel. Then you have to go figure out how to plug in the electricity from the angel, running extensions all the way up
And
there.
make sure it's straight, because it never stays straight.
And because the trees, it has a point, a peak, then it starts moving left or right. So basically, all I did was put some sprays in there. Again, those I had from previous years, and I think it complements the tree and the overall dynamics of how the tree played itself. I did include some flowers, some poinsettias. I had them in white and I had them in red. These are magnolias. So they just fit in.
So this is what we're seeing a lot of red trees.
Red, white, and green.
It's nice.
Anything else new for this Christmas that you need to keep us updated on?
I do think that, again, the tree plays a very important part of every home. And even if you're not all that big into Christmas, putting a small tree does create some sort of impact in the home. There's no rule in terms of decorating. There's no rule to saying what all you should not put. There's even a trend right now where all you do is put lights on the tree and put very small wooden ornaments and stuff like that, which brings the whimsical and the things in the past. So I would suggest that everybody put something to create that ambience. It does create something warm for the home. It does create something warm for the office.
You're still providing services for persons who may need assistance with.
Right now, we're fully booked. We're fully booked. And that is why it's good that we have these shows so that we can show a little bit of what people can do at home.
I got to touch on another one. Lights. What's the right balance for lights? Can you put too much light? I know you can definitely put too little lights, but can you put too much lights?
You can put too much lights. What I did here to balance it is
you have 2 sets of lights.
I put 2 sets of light. I put some that are steady, so those have no motion, and then I put some that have motion so that they can flicker a little bit. So it always looks like something is happening on the tree.
Lit. I'm just seeing that because first I only saw the flickering ones, but now I see the other lights.
Yes, it has. And even with that, no money, no day. So we have lights, and let's say a piece doesn't work, they come in 2 sets, a piece doesn't work. What we did is we took them down, tried repairing them, and what we salvaged what we could rather than throwing it away. So then we saved on lights, and then, people can do that at home. They will say it's time consuming and everything, but everything that's worth it takes time.
No, I think that, and I was telling you before, I think that the time of purchasing brand new decorations each year, you can't be able to do that all the time. And sometimes it's great to just pull back the old colors. Maybe they did red one year, white another year. Now they can do red and white this year.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Anything else strange we're going to be seeing with trees this year?
No, the trend.
I know the skinny tree was in at one point, and
you will see a little bit or a lot much more of displays rather than just as one standing tree. Like here, what we did, we created like a set which we are using all the pine cones that we could get locally. We use those lanterns. Those are reused lanterns. So it's basically creating a little display of everything rather than just one tree in the corner. I think that's going to be very, very key to create that homey effect.
And I have to be honest with you, it's just the red and green makes such a difference. Like it just feels so much more Christmassy.
It stands out. Like, I believe personally then that I'm more of a traditional person, if that were the case, because these are the colors
Whoever doubted that about you?
Because I know last year when we did the show, it was all white. And it took a while for me to actually...
It ruined you.
Yeah. But then this automatically stands out.
Exactly.
When you walk in the room, okay, it's Christmas.
Yes. I think the red and the green does that effect. If you would just take like a scented candle of cinnamon or something, put in it.
That's Christmas. You're right. And then you have the black cake smell. Somebody will make a candle of that soon.
Definitely. So definitely, rule of thumb, recycle. Recycle, reuse whatever you have, incorporate it in a different way that you had previously used. And I think that is what's going to create the look for you.
All right. And make sure you get enough lights on there, and you can use different size ornaments, different colors. Ribbons help to fill up space, and also these things, the big things that you put in. What do you
These
call
are actually ribbons too.
They're what?
It's actually a ribbon too.
Oh, that's a ribbon?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a thicker ribbon.
Oh, I thought it came like that.
No. It's a ribbon.
See, that's the kind of skill set I could never have. So, and bows also help to fill up spaces.
Yes.
Did you make those bows?
Yes. Very easy, just making circles, clamping them to the middle, and opening them.
All right. Well, Jaime, it definitely is feeling like Christmas in here. We want to say thank you for dressing this set and for providing us with some of these tips. And I'm very sure there are many more questions people probably have for you. Unfortunately, you are booked out. But I guess what would be your final advice to people before they put up their tree?
Enjoy the Christmas, enjoy the moment of putting up the tree, create that a family moment, and enjoy the 29 more days of the year?
Yeah.
That's all we got to do.
All right. Thank you so much, Jaime. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. We're going to go ahead and take that final break now. And when we come back, we'll have our wrap-up. So stay tuned.
With over 100. We're back.
We are back.
Yeah, kickstarting the first Monday in December.
We're still on this particular set, so we're still taking in all the colors and everything.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think being here now makes me feel like, okay, I need to get the rest of my life ready for Christmas now because it is so close. It is, I think, so many of us, it's our favorite time of year. And so we are getting started here at Open Your Eyes, and we hope that, you know, you've got some great tips to put together your tree and decorate your house as well. We want to say thank you to our guests, of course.
Yeah. Our first conversation being a look at the impact of HIV/AIDS on our population and what is being done by the ministry to properly address the situation of HIV/AIDS in the country. I think they're doing a very diligent and steady job of being able to deal with persons that are living with HIV/AIDS, notwithstanding some of the challenges that are there.
You know, it's one of those classic scenarios where you tell people you have to do your part. You have to get tested and know your own status, and if you are positive, and I say this loosely because, you know, you even see ads when you're watching US TV about, they have all kinds of prescription ads. Now there's one for people living with HIV, and it really just shows you how much the disease itself or how we're dealing with the disease has changed. It's chronic. You take medication, you live a healthy lifestyle. It can be like having any other condition, hypertension, diabetes. But if you know your status, if you test positive, you got to get on the medication, you got to stay on the medication, and you have to be healthy. But the other side of it is you also have to be cognizant of how you are adding to the stigma and discrimination throughout society. Desmond's story of his son is always a heartbreaking one because he was lucky that he had family support. But it was the discrimination he faced in a wider community that really led him to his death. And had it been a more not welcoming, just a more considerate, compassionate community, then he would have been able to stay on his medication and still be with us today. So I think it's a very good reminder to us that we need to do our part as well. It's not just about those who live with HIV, it's about embracing all people and knowing very clearly how you contract it. It's sex, it's mother to child, it's sharing needles, it's not that if I sit next to you, I touch your shoulder or shake your hand, that you're going to contract it. So keep on spreading those messages as time goes by.
And of course, if you are a stakeholder in the tourism industry, more so a restaurateur or a hotelier, and you want to be able to keep up with all the latest in digital trends and being able to promote your business in the social media realm, then of course there is tomorrow 9 to 12 at the San Ignacio Hotel, where the Belize Hotel Association is leading a panel discussion or a symposium, a biannual meeting as well for all members of the tourism industry.
That's right. And as we said, thank you to Confetti for dressing our set and for giving us some tips on putting together your Christmas tree. But we have a very important reminder before we close off. Gimme 5 starts tonight, and this is a twofold celebration. This is us celebrating our anniversary here at Channel 5, and also a way to kickstart the Christmas season. There's only one way you can win those prizes. And that's, of course, getting your coupons in, 25 cents each. But when that phone rings tonight...
You say, Dame Cinco.
That's right. Don't forget, there's nothing... You make all the effort. You come here, you fill out the coupons, you pay the money, you come in, drop it off, and then the phone rings. That's the only thing you got to do. Gimme 5. In Spanish, Dame Cinco. What's it in Garifuna?
Ruba Sengo no.
All right, there you go. So whatever language you want to say, make sure you say it when the phone rings. The show starts tonight at, help me out, 8:30? It starts at 8:30 tonight? All right, yeah, right here on Channel 5. It'll also be streaming on our Facebook page, so you can catch it there as well. That's it for us, though, here at Open Your Eyes. Remember, if you want to contact us, send us an email at oye@channel5belize.com. Drop me a line at marlene_oye@channel5belize.com. Find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ and on Instagram at OYEBelize. And remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
To start your morning right.
Until then, keep your eyes, your mind,
and your hearts open.
We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, Belize.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.